The globalist spreading disease worldwide on record. And the fact that it's fact and nobody gets in trouble for it. The fact that the ATF doesn't get in trouble for narcotics trafficking along with the FBI and 6 other federal agencies. It's all on record. We broke the stinking news. We just didn't call it Fast and Furious. We didn't know the name of the program 6 years ago. It makes me sick. This isn't about my big radio show and, oh my gosh, 15 million listeners and all this and boy, you know, the ego and everything. I'm somebody who is thinking about this all the time when I'm dreaming, when I'm jogging, when I'm eating dinner, when I'm rocking one of my children to sleep. And I just look in their eyes and their innocence. And there's so much good in the world. There's so much innocence in the world. There's so many good things that we've got to protect, and I'm angry. I'm angry at men out there who are too weak-minded to face the facts because I know I'm right. How much more has got to come true? How much further down this road do we got to get before you wake up? I got the Iran news here. We got a member of the European Union Parliament joining us coming up. I want to play a clip, though, of Rand Paul talking to Pistoli, the head of the TSA, about children being groped. And I've seen clips from Pistoli. I haven't watched this whole clip yet. They were just showing to me during the break, where Pistoli denies they even do it, even though there's thousands of videos of it. I mean, again, they're just scum. They're enemies. They hate you. They hate America. The globalists do hate America. That's why they're totally destroying it and turning it into a joke of absurdist police state. Here's Rand Paul.
Girl from Bowling Green that was on Good Morning America that many people saw, and she was on there with a TSA agent doing an invasive search inside of her clothing, inside of her pants. We had an 8-month-old who's having their diaper inspected. Then we had a 95-year-old who had their diaper taken off and inspected and stayed, I presume, for hours waiting to get.
It's all about humiliation.
When the TSA head Pistol was here, he said, well, we need to do these invasive searches. And he said, well, we may slow down or we may not do them as much. But then he sent me a letter and said, absolutely, that we have to because an 8-year-old in Kandahar exploded a bomb. To me, I think that shows a bit of naivete to think that somehow there's a similarity between an 8-year-old in Kandahar and an 8-year-old in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I mean, the only similarity is their age, and I wouldn't consider age to be a...
No, they're not naive. We're the terrorist. Al-Qaeda, who's gotten on the airplanes and given control of Libya and Syria, they work for the New World Order. And I know Rand knows that. But this whole Homeland Security thing that good old boys think is for the Muslims and all the rest of it that you hate so much, no, it's for you. And it's always been for you. And you wait till they try to start this war with Iran. Iran says if they cut off their oil supply, their oil sales, they're going to block the Straight of Hormuz. Well, Europe's voted to do it. That is the bankers that have hijacked Europe. And so the next few weeks are going to be interesting. There's a very good chance a major war is going to break out, which is exactly what the bankers want. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, I blew a gasket in the last hour because I just think about the TSA groping all those children, the forced inoculation starting up around the country. I see the noose tightening around our republic's throat. I see the globalists gearing up for new giant wars. And then what really got me mad before I even went on air today was I kept reading all these articles where these billionaires and 100-millionaire people on average pay about 3% tax. And that's if they try to bring money back in the U.S. Here's a London Independent article. You know about Google paying 2.4 tax, General Electric 0. Super rich Romney admits paying only 15% in taxes. Folks, somebody making $30,000 a year pays more than that, one way or the other, the feds. I mean, I pay 35%. And by the way, I pay a lot more than that because they've gotten rid of all the exemptions. And then people say, well, stop paying them. Yeah, we didn't have the income tax till 1913. Yeah, it wasn't adopted generally until 1951. I know all that. I know you write the checks to the Federal Reserve. I know it's a scam. I understand that. But I have to choose my battles. But the point is they've gotten rid of all the exemptions. What, 5-6 years ago, they changed the law where CPAs are basically agents of the IRS. So you get audited constantly if you don't use a big establishment auditing firm, CPA firm, and then they don't give you all the exemptions, and so you pay more like 45%. So then you simply just try to make sure you spend all your money on the operation, which is what we want to do anyways. Then your employees just all pay it. Or, you know, you build a studio in your building, and the state of Texas comes along. One of the taxes Rick Perry got passed because he doubled the size of government. Folks found out about that. That's why he's dropped out of the race now when he was the heir apparent the globalists thought they'd have. And they made him the leader out of the gates, remember? But you know, he got this tax where they tax everything in your business. It's an income tax. And then they got this hospital district property tax thing on top of it. And everything in here, every year I get charged for. This on-air light. They're building a giant bureaucracy of little snot-nosed inspectors that want to force their way into your business with no warrant. And when they come around, they're on real power trips, all geared up, and you're the enemy, and you're supposed to lick their boots all day and chew the barnacles off their feet. I mean, I'm just sick of it. Just sick of it. I hate being a slave. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I'll tell you what I hate even more. I hate everybody licking boots and loving it. So pathetic. People think they get ahead by rolling over on their back like a dog to these people. All that does is let the globalists chew your guts out. The time is coming to get more aggressive in the info war. Can you imagine if people spray painted in legal and lawful areas nationwide, TSA are tyrants, TSA are pedophiles, or Infowars.com? Imagine in every city, town, and county, of people on the sides of their barns, businesses, T-shirts, spray painted Infowars.com or stenciled it. I mean, hell, ATF shipping guns into Mexico and drugs back into the U.S. publicly. I'm not saying you should ever do anything and spray paint government buildings or propaganda billboards. God forbid we do anything like that. So just do it in legal and lawful areas. But I want to see aggressive banner hangs on highways. I want to see people aggressively putting whatever message you want on the side of your barn. And I did see some of those when I travel around the country. I want to see all sorts of images and messages that we know what's going on. In fact, I'm getting a bumper sticker made that says, I can see, I'm awake. Just so people can say, what does that mean? You can say, you don't know? You don't know what's going on? We'll be right back. Stay with us. Okay, for the next 30 minutes, then I'll get into other news and your calls. We're joined by Paul Nuttall. He's a European Union member of Parliament out of England. And he's part of the UK Independence Party. At 32, he got elected as UKIP's youngest ever chairman. And he is certainly doing a great job over there exposing the globalists and the socialist takeover through the EU dictatorship, something that the UK Independence Party, Lord Monckton and others have been exposing for a long time. Now it's admitted. And the last head of the EU, Van Rompuy, admitted they want a socialist world government. But I wanted to play a clip from 3.5 years ago of the UK Independence Party member, Paul Nuttall, in the European Parliament, exposing the carbon tax fraud. And, of course, years later, it all comes out that they know it's a fraud internally with the whole ClimateGate situation. But we'll also look at the EU move for sanctions on Iran with him. And we'll also look at some of the other big developments happening in the EU dictatorship right now. But let's go ahead and go to that clip.
Mr. President, I've just heard a socialist colleague over there talking about Greenland and, you know, the ice melting in Greenland. Well, you know, the question I'd like to ask on this subject is, why is Greenland called Greenland? Is it perhaps because Greenland was once green when the world was hotter? Well, it seems that the British people are onto this, because a recent opinion poll in the Times newspaper clearly shows that the British people no longer believe in so-called man-made global warming. The British people are very astute. And they're clear that politicians have hijacked the environmentalist agenda. It's been cynically used to raise taxes, to exert control, and now it's being used by the European Union to justify your own existence. This week we've also had the spectacle of one of the leading climate research centres in the UK, which advises the government, being caught altering data and stifling debate. It's an absolute disgrace. So I look forward to Copenhagen, when the political class is sitting round the table, awkwardly failing to mention the giant elephant in the room, which is that the globe has not actually warmed for the past 10 years.
Taking out of Paul Nuttall, so much to talk about in the 20 minutes we have or so with him. But for those that don't understand, you've got people that are elected to the parliament, but the bureaucrats actually have all the power and now set, what is it, 80+% of the laws in England without England ever even really being officially brought into the euro.
Yeah, around 80% of our laws are now made not by the Parliament, not by people who are elected. It's made by the European Commission. And now the European Commission is about a mile up the road from the European Parliament, and they sit in something called the Parliament building. And these 27 commissioners make these laws, make these rules, make these directives in secret. They meet in secret. And what's worse is there's 4,000 working groups who sit around the Commission and advise them on these regulations. And we've asked before in the past, what big business is involved here? What lobbyist groups are involved in these working groups? And the Commission won't even tell us. It's that secretive. It's that out of control. And finally, the people of Britain seem to be waking up to this. And if you look at the opinion polls over the past couple of years, people now are consistently agreeing with UKIP's position, which is quite simply that Britain would be better off out and governing our own affairs.
And even as you know, but for listeners in the U.S., Cameron had said, I won't let the people of the UK vote on, getting out of the euro, even though they never voted to get into it. But now he's kind of backed off for now because of the huge awakening and said, we're not going to basically vote to expand EU power over us.
I mean, David Cameron's position on this has been a disgrace from day one. When he was in opposition, he gave us a cast-iron guarantee. He wrote in the biggest-selling newspaper in this country, it's called The Sun. He wrote in that newspaper that he would give us a cast-iron guarantee that we would be given a vote on the Lisbon Treaty. He then backtracked on that after the European elections, after he had promised his own voters, people who went out and voted in their droves Conservative in 2009, on the back of that promise. He then reneged a couple of days later. Disgraceful stuff. Now he's come into power. He sold us completely down the river. 4 months ago, there was a petition. We have a system in this country now where if online there's 100,000 people sign a petition, we can have a debate in Parliament on an issue. And there was a debate on whether we should have a referendum on our membership of the European Union. David Cameron, not only David Cameron, but Nick Clegg and Ed Miliband, so the leaders of the three biggest parties in this country, three-line whipped their own members to vote against a referendum. These people are terrified of the views of the people. And what's interesting is that the last referendum we had on the issue of Europe was back in 1975. So if you're under 54, you've never had a vote on this issue. David Cameron himself, Ed Miliband and Nick Clegg are all under 54, and they've never had a vote on it. And what we voted on in 75 was trade. We voted to join a European Economic Community. What we've got now is the embryo. I wouldn't even call it an embryo anymore. We're being guided towards a political superstate.
And when you look at Von Rumpenigge and others, they admit it's global governance, it's unelected, it's anti-family. They want, in Europe, I've seen in Der Spiegel, where there won't be single-parent homes allowed anymore. They want to